With regards to the Yetzer Hara, we see an expression of this in, again, another aspect of this week's Parsha. The Pasuk tells us that when you go out to war against your enemies, Hashem will deliver them in your hand, and there will be captives. And here we encounter one of the most enigmatic and peculiar passages, the passage of Eishet. This soldier, who is a holy man because only the holiest of the holy were able to make it into the battle of Hashem, into the Milchama, into the soldiers. And you will see amongst the captivity a woman who is beautiful, and you will desire her and take her for yourself as a wife. So now, on the battlefield, of all places, this Jewish soldier sees the beautiful woman, desires her, and he's permitted to marry her. What a unique law. And as Rashi points out, quoting the Gemara, Dibra Torah keneged Yetzer Hara, even though she wasn't Jewish, the reason you're allowed to is because the Torah is giving a unique and special dispensation to man's evil inclination. The Torah specifies the procedure whereby the Jewish soldier brings this captured non-Jewish woman into his house and allows her a period of mourning for her father's house, and she goes through a process of de-beautification. And after this process, if he still desires her, he can marry her. Now, first of all, why is this the one instance where Hashem says, Dibra Torah keneged Yetzer Hara? What about any other Avera? Why here? And why stop here? There is a magnificent observation in a sefer called Ohel Moed. You see, when the Torah switches its language, originally it tells us that the soldier's reaction to her was v'chashakta ba, and he will have a strong desire, or more literally, you lusted after her. So we would expect that the opposite situation is what the Torah would describe at the end of 30 days, and it will come to pass, it should say, lo chashakta ba, that you no longer lust after her. That would be the change of mind. But that's not what the pasuk says. You see, the pasuk switches verbs from the verb cheshek to the verb chafetz. And the wording is, v'haya imlo chafatzta ba. And not only does it switch from cheshek to chafetz, the pasuk says, if you lo chafatzta, if you did not want her, referring to the past tense, where really it should have said that you don't want her in the current sense. So perhaps here lies a magnificent insight into our psychological and physiological struggle with the Yetzer Hara. What the Torah is saying is, your initial attraction to her was cheshek, it was lust. And after 30 days, after waiting it out, after coming to your senses, even the ATMs in Las Vegas are regulated to be a certain distance from the casinos to give people a time to get to themselves so that they can think with some clarity and not get caught up in the lust of the moment. If after 30 days you come to your senses, what does the Torah say? Not lo chashakta ba, but lo chafatzta ba. You don't have a desire, a synergy, a connection that would prompt you to want to marry her. V'im lo chafatzta ba, you never wanted her, because all along this is a revelatory basic fact that you never really felt a connection, but it was only pure and raw lust. And therefore the Torah is saying the science and the shtados of how to deal with the Yetzer Hara is wait it out. Wait it out. Recognize the difference between cheshek and chafitza. And recognize and realize that just because the voice inside you puts the words in your mind that I want this and I want that, who is that I? That I is right now a foreign agent, an adversary from enemy territory who infiltrated into your thought process, into your faculties, and is trying to convince you that this is what you want. But what you achieve and accomplish by waiting it out, even if it's 15 minutes, even if it's a half hour or an hour, give yourself the opportunity to get the clarity of thought, to realize that this might be a foreign voice in my head, but it's not I who want it. There's a part of me that claims to want it. And the moment I come to that level of self-clarity, I'm able to see through the fog and recognize that this is not something that I need. Another example of the hishtadlus, of the science, the art of hishtadlus, is when we look at the greatest conqueror of the Yetzer Hara in our Jewish history, Yosef HaTzadik. is about to capitulate after being constantly harassed and seduced by his master's wife. And he's about to give in. What happens? He sees his father's vistage. He sees Yaakov Avinu. Where does he see him? He sees him at the window. Now, wait a second. Who's looking at the window when they're caught up in passion, when they're about to sin? The answer is Yosef. Because Yosef, even when he was about to sin, where was his mind? He was always looking for a way out. He was always looking for an exit. He was always looking, how can I get out of this? And even though he was completely caught up in the moment, he was still looking at the window for some hope, for some glimmer of spiritual inspiration that would give him the necessary resiliency to rise above the Nisayan. And that is what happened. Because when you look at the window, when you look for the way out, Hashem comes through. Haba l'taher Nisayan Eishet. Last but not least, the Kotzker Rebbe would say, I don't tell my Chassidim not to sin. The Yetzer is very powerful, but what I do tell them is engage in the science and the art of Ishtadlos and don't have time to sin.